Welcome to Behind the Shadows. I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Enjoy the story.
In the Cozy Corner Cafe, the team of documentarians gathered around a small table, cluttered with notes and steaming cups of coffee. Alex, the group leader, adjusted his glasses and looked at his friends, his face revealing a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Guys, have you heard about the disappearances in Ashford? It's like the hospital is alive, sucking the souls out of people," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper. Maria, a young woman with curly hair and a curious gaze, nodded. "Yeah, I've seen some urban legends about it. They say the witch who used to run things there still roams the halls, feeding on the souls of patients. It's terrifying," she added, a slight tremor in her voice. Tom, the skeptic of the group, laughed, but his expression showed that the idea unsettled him. "Come on, folks. They're just stories to scare teenagers. What worries me is safety. If there's really something there, we need to be prepared." Lisa, the most sensitive of the group, looked out the window, where dark clouds were beginning to gather in the sky. "No matter what it is, we need to document everything. It would be a great opportunity for our project, but we have to be careful," she said, her words heavy with concern. The conversation flowed, punctuated by nervous laughter and tales of past experiences, as a mix of anticipation and fear settled in. When the team finally arrived at the Ashford Psychiatric Hospital, a disturbing silence enveloped the environment. The worn walls and overgrown vegetation gave the impression that the place held dark secrets. "It's even creepier than I imagined," Maria murmured as they all got out of the car, her gaze fixed on the main entrance, which seemed to open into an abyss. "Let's gear up. Cameras, flashlights, everything ready?" Alex commanded, his voice firm, though his heart raced. They moved cautiously, each step echoing in the empty halls, until they crossed the threshold and were met by an even deeper silence. "It's like the place itself is watching us," Tom said, as shadows danced around them. As they explored the dark, crumbling corridors, Alex suddenly stopped. A soft whisper, almost imperceptible, floated in the air. "What was that?" he asked, a chill running down his spine. When he turned around, there was nothing, just emptiness. "Did you guys hear that?" he insisted, but his friends didn't seem to notice anything strange. The tension escalated, and soon they decided to split into groups to cover more ground. "Let's meet back in half an hour. If something weird happens, scream," Alex suggested, unaware that this decision would make them easy targets. With one last nervous glance, they dispersed, each following their own path, unknowingly facing the darkness that awaited them. As they explored the hospital, Maria and Tom found themselves in a therapy room that seemed frozen in time. Old instruments, like electroshock chairs and examination tables, lay in disarray, covered in a thick layer of dust. The dim light from their flashlights illuminated the space, revealing a dusty portrait on the wall depicting a doctor with a disturbing smile. "Look at this, Tom," Maria exclaimed, pointing to an old notebook lying on the floor. "These notes could give us an idea of what happened here." Tom approached, picking up the notebook. "It looks like this place was a true horror laboratory. These treatments were cruel." He flipped through the pages, his expression growing increasingly grim. "We should show this to the others," Maria suggested, but before she could finish her sentence, a sound of metal scraping echoed down the hallway. The doors, which had been opened before, slammed shut with force, locking themselves. "Did you hear that?" Tom asked, panic starting to creep into his voice. "Yes, and I don't like this one bit," Maria replied, trying to steady her rapid breathing. "We need to find Alex and Lisa." Meanwhile, Alex and Lisa were exploring a dusty library, filled with cobweb-covered books and broken shelves. The smell of mildew was intense, and the atmosphere seemed heavy with dark secrets. "Look at this," Alex said, pulling a thick book from the shelf. "It's a diary. It might contain information about the disappearances." Lisa flipped through the pages, but her expression soon changed. "These notes talk about rituals. And a witch. It seems she fed on the souls of the patients." "Wait, what was that?" Alex interrupted, hearing a whisper that seemed to come from behind them. He turned quickly, but there was no one there. "We need to meet with Maria and Tom. This isn't right." When they finally gathered, the tension was palpable. The doors were locked, and despair began to spread among them. "What are we going to do?" Lisa asked, her voice trembling. "Let's try to force the exit," Alex suggested, but before they could act, a shadow swiftly darted down the hallway, causing Tom to scream. "What was that?" The team braced themselves to face the unknown, but the room turned into a fortress of fear as Tom began to disappear into the darkness. "Tom! No!" Maria shouted, reaching out her hand, but it was too late. The dark presence enveloped them, and the feeling that something evil was watching intensified. "We need to find a way out of here," Alex said, his voice echoing in the silent room. "I think we have to split up again, but this time, we need a plan." Uncertainty hung in the air as the group hesitated, unaware that this decision would lead them to an even more terrifying fate. The tension hung thick, like a heavy fog that made it hard to breathe. Alex, with the flashlight trembling in his hand, tried to maintain his composure. "We need to stick together. Let's establish a meeting point and get out of this place." Maria, on the other hand, looked around, the shadows dancing on the walls as if they were reveling in their anguish. "What if the exits are locked again?" she asked, her voice choked with fear. "We can't think like that," Tom replied, trying to convey confidence. "We'll move. The exit has to be close." But as they advanced through the corridors, the feeling of claustrophobia increased, as if the walls were closing in around them. The whispers that were once faint now echoed, calling their names in a melancholic and distant tone. "Alex! Maria!" The voices repeated, intertwining with the very environment. It was at that moment that Lisa, distracted, found a dusty diary, half hidden beneath a pile of papers. "Guys, come check this out." Her voice sounded like a beacon in the darkness. The group gathered around her, watching as she flipped through the yellowed pages. "Look! This diary belongs to a hospital staff member. She talks about a witch who was secretly buried here." "A witch?" Tom repeated, with a nervous laugh. "That's just an urban legend, right?" But Lisa's expression left no room for doubt. "It doesn't seem like just a story. The notes talk about disappearances. And sacrifices." Panic began to spread among them, like a blot of ink in clear water. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, echoing through the dark corridors. It was a high-pitched, desperate sound, and before they could process what was happening, Maria vanished. "Maria!" Alex shouted, his voice filled with despair. "Where are you?" The darkness responded only with a deafening silence. The group, now reduced in number, exchanged terrified glances, their eyes wide with fear. "We need to get out of here, now!" Lisa exclaimed, adrenaline making her heart race. The atmosphere became oppressive, and the shadows seemed to come alive, twisting and closing in with malignant intent. "Let's split up and look for Maria," Tom suggested, although his own voice trembled. "No, that's a mistake," Alex protested, but the urgency of the situation made any resistance futile. Thus, each of them took a different corridor, feeling that they were not only distancing themselves from one another but also from reality itself. Now alone in the haunted hospital, Alex and Lisa tried to process the terrifying sequence of events that had led them to this point. The air was thick with a sense of oppression, and every step they took echoed like a grim reminder of their missing friends. "We need to understand what's going on here," Alex said, his voice barely a whisper laden with fear. "Those photos, the witch. It all has to be connected." Lisa nodded, her gaze fixed on a dark corner of the hallway. "Yes, but how? What can we do?" They managed to make their way to a side room where, among the shadows, they found a hidden altar filled with strange symbols and melted candles. "Look," Lisa pointed, approaching cautiously. "These symbols. They seem ancient. This must be a witchcraft altar," Alex deduced, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Maybe this is where the witch performs her rituals." As they examined the altar, a biting wave of cold enveloped them, making them shiver. The shadows around them began to shift, forming indistinct shapes that seemed to close in. "What is happening?" Lisa screamed, instinctively recoiling. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here." Alex turned to grab the flashlight, but the darkness seemed to consume the light. The silhouettes became more defined, and a sinister laugh echoed through the air, making Alex's heart race. "She's here," he whispered, the reality of the danger becoming palpable. Desperate, Alex pulled a lighter from his pocket. "If we can't escape, at least I can try to burn this." He flicked the flame to life and held it close to the altar. "Get back," he shouted as the flames began to consume the symbols. That moment felt eternal, but as soon as the altar caught fire, an explosion of energy erupted throughout the hospital. Lisa was thrown back, losing consciousness upon impact. Alone now, Alex felt the ground tremble beneath him. The laughter of the shadows grew louder, echoing in his mind. He turned, panting, and before him, the figure of the witch began to materialize. Her presence was imposing, and Alex felt the air around him grow even heavier. "You shouldn't have done that," she said, her voice laden with a chilling tone. "Now you will be part of my power." The tension in the air was palpable, and Alex felt an extreme chill creep down his spine. He was about to face a fate he could never have imagined. The shadows danced around him, whispering ancient secrets and promises of terror. The battle for survival was just beginning, but the forces opposing him seemed almost invincible. Alex held Lisa tightly as he rushed through the crumbling corridors of the hospital. The oppressive silence around him was broken only by the echo of his hurried footsteps. His heart raced in his chest, and a sense of despair began to settle in. He needed to find a way out, but what truly troubled him were the voices that seemed to whisper his name, calling him to a dark destiny. Turning a corner, a dim light illuminated an ajar door. With a surge of hope, he pushed it open and stepped inside. What he saw made his blood run cold, a room filled with trapped souls. Tom and Maria were there, their faces pale and their eyes filled with terror. "Alex! Help us!" Maria screamed, her voice brimming with desperation. "We're trapped here. Don't worry, I'll save you." Alex replied, his voice trembling as he tried to approach. However, as he reached out, a shadow emerged from the depths of the room. It was the witch, her presence radiating a malevolent power that made the environment tremble. "You cannot save them, Alex," she declared with a cruel smile. "They are part of me now. And you. You have a choice to make." She approached, her eyes shining with a supernatural light. "Join me, and you will have power beyond your dreams. Immortality. What do you prefer? To be a mere mortal or an eternal being? I would never join you." Alex shouted, anger and fear mingling within him. He looked at Lisa, still unconscious in his arms, and at his friends who were pleading for help. "I will free them." With a swift movement, Alex lunged toward Tom and Maria, trying to pull them from the dark sphere that held them captive. A scream echoed through the room as the witch unleashed a wave of energy, but he focused, remembering the love he felt for his friends. The souls around him began to stir, as if responding to his call. "Free us!" The souls cried, and an explosion of light made the witch recoil, momentarily destabilized. Seizing the opportunity, Alex began liberating the souls surrounding him. But even as some were freed, the witch quickly regained control. "You cannot escape," she roared, her fury reverberating off the walls. Alex felt the dark energy concentrate again, and amid the chaos, a new wave of terror spread. Lisa, who had been in his arms, vanished in a cloud of shadows, leaving only an echo of her scream. "No! Lisa!" Alex cried, pain piercing his heart. He was surrounded by darkness, and even as the freed souls turned against the witch, despair threatened to overwhelm him. Her power was still strong, and the struggle was far from over. The darkness of the hospital seemed to intensify, and Alex, now alone, felt the weight of solitude and despair in his chest. The walls, covered in mold and tragic memories, pulsed with an unsettling energy. He needed to find a way out while also figuring out how to combat the witch, who was now rising stronger than ever. The feeling that he was not completely alone began to form in Alex's mind, like a distant whisper. "I need you," he murmured, looking around as if he could summon the souls he had freed. The air was charged with energy, and he could feel a presence approaching. "If you can hear me, help me." He closed his eyes and tried to concentrate on the voices echoing in his mind, hoping his intentions could reach the souls still wandering those dark corridors. Then, a cold wind swept past him, and Alex knew the witch was drawing near. "Do you really think you can defeat me, boy?" Her voice was like a distorted echo, filled with contempt. "The hospital is my home. I am the essence of this place. Your attempts are futile." Alex's heart raced. "No. You can't keep doing this. I will put an end to it," he shouted, but the witch merely laughed, a sound hauntingly melodic that reverberated off the walls. "Oh, but you don't know. You have a connection to me, don't you? You are the last descendant of that group that burned me. What you don't realize is that your blood belongs to me. You are part of me now." Her words struck him like a sharp blade. Alex had a brief vision, flashes of lost memories from a past that wasn't his but connected him to that witch. He recalled stories his grandmother told him, of an ancient lineage that had opposed a malevolent entity. "No. That can't be true," he screamed, trying to repel the revelation that paralyzed him. "It is the truth, my dear. And you know what comes next." The witch stretched out her hand, and a wave of shadows began to form around her, like serpents twisting eagerly. "No, no, no." Alex recoiled, but it was too late. The shadows enveloped him, pulling him into an abyss of darkness. He struggled, but the force was unstoppable. With one last scream of despair, he was pulled into her world, feeling reality fade away. The hospital, now vibrant with a new wave of macabre energy, seemed to come alive. Doors creaked, and whispers echoed like an invitation for new souls. The witch, now with a triumphant smile, watched as the ajar door let out a cold breeze, a harbinger that the cycle of terror was far from over. Who will be the next to become part of my collection? The shadows danced around.
Leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy and see other stories on the channel. See you in the next story, if you dare. See you in the next story, if you dare.